students. I wanted to go over the study guide for Ivory Tower and inductive deductive reasoning. So let's go over that real quick. So first question, I've got the study guide, you can get yours out, right? First question, it says, number one, is college a worthwhile endeavor for most? Why or why not? Explain and use evidence from the film as support. Right? So you're just going to discuss exactly what it says, why you think it is a worthwhile endeavor for most, yes or no, and then use an example from the film. So that seems pretty straightforward, right? So again, you're not being assessed on your opinion, but you are being assessed on how well you explain and support your opinion, all right? All right, so number two, should college be free of charge? And should some aspect of college be free of charge? For example, state universities or community colleges. Explain and use evidence from the film as support. So the film has a lot of evidence, a lot of perspectives, a lot of evidence about that. So again, you could say that you think it should be completely free. All public colleges, for example, community colleges and state universities and UCs, you could say that. You could say that community colleges should be free, but there should be a charge for the state universities in the UC system, or you could approach this on a national level or a state level. Either one is really fine. But do explain your idea and then use evidence from the text. So for example, if you were arguing that that public colleges like state universities, community colleges, and UCs should be free, there's a lot of evidence in the text that California was once a big leader in that. That community, we had no, that's why they call it fees. If you've noticed, it's not called tuition in California, it's called fees. We have fees because there was no tuition. We had that for quite a long time, that community colleges were free, the state universities were free, and UC system, believe it or not. So, and this is not that long ago. This is actually somewhat when I was a college student. In the 80s, it was still free to go to a community college. I can remember I went to Solano, and I can remember I paid 50 cents for some kind, it was a fee for some kind of like being able to go to the health center or something like that. When I registered for my classes, I paid my 50 cents. It was free. And when I was going, the state universities, there was a charge for it, but it had been free prior to that, and it was still a pretty affordable charge. I think I paid $325 the first semester. I went to Sac State at first, and it was approximately that much. And even though that was a long time ago, the 80s were a while back, it was still something that you could work a part-time job and cobble together the money. So it wasn't as like overwhelming as it is today. So this is in not just my lifetime. I wasn't even a kid. I was a college student. So right around the early 90s is when this started changing. There used to be an agreement with the state that they could not increase the fees over a certain amount. That agreement was violated. And that was in the early 90s. This when it really started going up a lot. And it's just been on an uphill, motion with that. So recently there have been some changes in community colleges where they are trying to make it, more affordable. But so if you were arguing in favor of it, there's that evidence in the movie where they explain the vision of Clark Kerr and all of that of having state universities free. However, they also explain the other perspective of, they have the gentleman that was the financial person saying, well, it's not free. It costs money. The cost has to come from somewhere, right? So I can tell you though, I know that there's an argument that people would just be beating down the doors and the classes would be so crowded. They weren't. It was just totally normal. I guess people just accepted that it was free, and people that wanted to go went, and people that didn't, and it honestly seemed to work quite well. But at any rate, one you can make, it's a lot. I really like the film because they went over a lot of the different views and ideas about it, and there's a lot of evidence about that. So you just want to make sure you answer the question and give an example. You can use my example. I'm telling you right now, if you want to use my example, there you go. It's from anything that's from this lecture. If you would like to, seriously, that's fine. All right. So, and then number 3. What do you think about, it tags right on to, what do you think about California's leadership and Clark Care's vision of free, affordable college for all? Can this model still work? Why or why not? I just touched on that. So if you think it can work, then do explain that. I touched on that when I just went over the last question. If you think that it can't, that there are things that are different today, then that's totally fine. Then just explain, what is it that would be different today. I have to say, I don't, like it wasn't, taxes weren't exorbitant. In fact, we used to get this thing called it wasn't just a tax refund. It wasn't to do with doing your taxes. Just by being a citizen, they used to send you this money back. They would balance the budget, and then every citizen would get like this check. For whatever it was different every year depending on how surplus. It was like a surplus, and it might be $20, it might be whatever, but everybody got it, so it seems to be working okay. But at any rate, so you can answer the question based on your view, and you can look at the film for evidence on that. Okay, all right. So number 4. Discuss the model of Deep Springs College, which is free of charge, but at which students work on the ranch and form a community in a remote area. What are the benefits and challenges of this model? I'm sorry, that was supposed to be a question mark at the end, but at any rate. And just to update, it was initially a college for just men, but now women can go too. So it's gender, all genders are welcome. They have it, they updated that since the film came out. Because I know that could be certainly a problem, right? But it's not right now. So just to be clear on that. But what are the benefits and challenges of that model? That's pretty clear and straightforward, right? Just want to maybe rethink about that from the film. Number 5, discuss Peter Thiel's, it should say uncollege movement. I think I know I typed uncollege in at first, and I think my computer corrected it and made it college. But Peter Thiel's uncollege movement. Is this a viable plan or a recipe for disaster, or somewhere in the middle? Who might it work well for? So is it that was the one that they're in San Francisco, and they're going to get training? They're all living in a community together, and they're like getting training on starting businesses and doing things like that, and giving specific instructions on that, but they're not enrolled in an actual college. Is this a viable plan for some folks, or could it be a real problem? Like someone in the film said afterwards, in fact, that's very bad advice. If you have the opportunity to go to college, to reject that and not do it is bad advice. But these folks thought it was really a good plan. So what do you think, right? And then maybe it's somewhere in the middle. What do you think? If you think it could work, who would it maybe work well for, right? So just answer specifically with evidence from the film. Number 6, discuss San Jose State's attempt to offer entry-level classes online with the online startup company. Would that model work for most students? Why or why not? Well, you can all speak a lot about this one if that ends up being a quiz question, right? So they tried it, and they had they didn't quite get the results that they wanted, right? But there, you can again review the film for all the ups and downs of that. Does this model work for most students? You get to discuss this. So if you have experience in that right now, whether you did a couple years ago or not, you've got experience in that right now. So if you think, yes, this model works actually pretty well, then give the evidence, give your own experience. There you go, right? And then if it doesn't work, if you're like, I hate doing school this way, right? Fine. Then talk about that and how it's not working for you, right? But then also, please do give evidence from the film as well. All right, so 7, should Cooper Union have remained free of tuition? Why or why not? Should Cooper Union have remained free of tuition? So we saw that take place in the film, and what do you think? There's both sides were presented. in the film, and what do you think about that? So explain your idea and give evidence from the film. 8, discuss the race among colleges to build bigger, and better amenities. Why might this be a problem? In what ways could this be beneficial? So it could be a problem in some ways if they, as we've seen in the film, all those amenities, the rock walls and the pools and all of those things cost money, right? And sometimes colleges can get themselves into financial distress over trying this race to have better and better amenities to attract students. But how could it be, beneficial? I mean, certainly it's very attractive to want to have these nice, amenities like the rock walls and a nice pool or that kind of thing. I know when I was at teaching at Sonoma State, I did see that it was during the recession, and they were building this beautiful new student union. They did have a student union, but it was beautiful, and it had a rock wall and all that. It's really nice. It's there. You can check it out. But they were also, it was during the recession, and programs were getting cut, and classes were getting cut, and instructors were getting laid off. And it was like two totally different realities happening. So, yeah, so there's some ups and downs of that. So discuss that. And then number 9, discuss the party pathway. Should colleges provide this path for the less studious out-of-state students, as they discussed? Why or why not? What could be some of the problems with this plan? So they discussed that very specifically, and they interviewed someone from the University of Arizona. They interviewed some students. There were two experts, I'm going to call them. I can't remember their names. The 2 women that were weighing in on this, and so they have a lot of different ideas, right? So discuss that and just answer the question with evidence. Number 10, discuss the student who was on a full scholarship to Harvard. What were some of the challenges that he faced? Should more Ivy League colleges offer full scholarships? What benefits could such an education bring to graduates? So you want to I found him very inspiring. So you just want to answer that very specifically and give evidence. I think that one's pretty straightforward. All right, 11, discuss the model of the 19th century that college could transform people's lives. Giving, let's see, there's something missing here. I'm sorry. Let's see. Discuss the model of the 19th century that college could transform people's lives. There's something missing, but basically that therefore that as many people should be educated as possible. So this was a real vision for a lot of folks in the 19th century, in the 1800s, and that's how the state university system seemed to really take off, because there was this idea that college could transform people's lives. So if we really believe that, we want to get as many colleges to as many people as we can. And that was really the birth of the state university system. All right, so, but discuss that. What do you think, right? And give evidence from the film. They discussed that in the film. All right, 12. Do you agree or disagree with the statement that a democracy depends on an educated citizenry? Why or why not? If you agree, what should we do as a country to ensure education? If you disagree, what should be done to help people to be informed and engaged citizens? So that is a quote from the film, that a democracy depends on an educated citizenry. That was the professor that the film opened with and also closed with, right? And so meaning that the idea behind that is that if you had the benefit of higher education, that you often have been exposed to better ways to have critical thinking skills, to be exposed to different ideas, different ways to solve a problem, that you've been educated in a higher education format for knowing history, knowing literature, knowing higher levels of like math and science, and that together this helps you to have better understanding of both the history of our country and understanding of the issues, understanding of how to perhaps solve those issues while still understanding different perspectives. That's kind of where that is, maybe the importance of and how to make your voice heard in an effective way. How to help others have their voice heard in an effective way. That could be some benefits of higher education, right? So, do you think that a democracy depends on that? So, you could say yes, and you could explain that. You could say, no, I really don't think that, and you could explain that, right? And then you just need to give an example of that, right? If you agree, what should we do as a country to ensure then that people are able to get access to higher education? You can explain your idea specifically. If you disagree, then just explain why and explain how you think people could be better informed citizens without having to necessarily go to college. Okay? All right, so 13, define inductive reasoning and give a specific example of this type of reasoning. So just really straightforward, just explain inductive reasoning, what it is, and then give a specific example. So again, just as a recap, inductive reasoning is the one that you make an observation. You make an observation that leads you to the big idea. Deductive reasoning is you have the big idea, and then you have to support that big idea with the evidence, right? So it's just flipped, right? All right, so, and you guys have the videos on all of that. So 14 is about deductive reasoning. 15, in reasoning, what is a false conclusion and how could that occur? Give a specific example of inductive or deductive reasoning that could lead to a false conclusion. So you guys did this on the homework already, so that should be pretty straightforward too. All right, so I just wanted to make the video to kind of just go over and clarify the questions and just kind of try to discuss them in this format, even though it's just me talking to you. But I've tried to kind of just explain a little bit, maybe give you a little background to help you to form, just kind of think about it. And so hopefully with just me talking and your own thinking about it, that can help you to formulate your own ideas. And just as a reminder to evidence. You need evidence to support your ideas. Thank you.